gun down.
Suppressing. Rubber's gun is down. Stand by. We're already moving. You're gonna make do.
He's down on the low right. Low right's down. There's another one. I got two. Grim, you good? Hang on, Grim. Oh, you are uber f***ed.
It's been about 3 months since Bellum was first announced, and if you missed it, Bellum is an upcoming tactical shooter, not unlike Squad or Arma, which is going to focus on realistic platoon-level communication and teamwork in a PvP environment. We still don't have all the details just yet, but the devs, spearheaded by YouTuber KarmaCut, just dropped their first ever dev blog, and not only is it coming with a lot of new information, but we get our very first taste of gameplay. Now, before we dive into this, I do want to remind everyone that this is pre-alpha stage gameplay. Animations might look a little weird, graphics might not be final, and sounds are more than likely placeholders. So instead of focusing on all that, try and focus on the gameplay mechanics Bellum is implementing and talking about, and then you'll have a better idea of what this game will really play like. In this devblog video, not only do we see gameplay, which we'll break down here in a minute, but the first thing that jumped out to me was how you can actually control your character. If you're a tactical shooter enjoyer, you more often than not have been in locations where you really want to take a shot, but the wall is just too short or too high. There's a weird fence. You just can't really find a good spot to shoot, and it really pulls you out of the game. Well, it looks like Bellum is implementing incremental speed for walking and also incremental height for standing and crouching, not unlike something like Escape from Tarkov's system, meaning that not only can you creep, walk, run, or sprint to a location, but once you're there, you can actually adjust yourself to the perfect height for firing. Additionally, it looks like your character also has proper firing positions for when they are in the prone position and have to spin around, turn around, or look up, down, sideways, wherever. This adds so much more flexibility if you're on the ground, but the only thing I would have loved to see added here was weapon resting, since that would really pair great with all these adjustable heights and stances. But either way, this is just the type of stuff I want to see in tactical shooter games, so I'm just super excited to see so much control given to the player this early in the game's development. Now, when it comes to gunplay, the devs have definitely taken some lessons learned from current shooters. And as KarmaCut says,
we've paid very close attention to make sure weapons feel properly shouldered and to create recoil impulses that are controllable with some skill.
Bellum is definitely going to go in the opposite direction of Squad when it comes to weapon handling, and it doesn't seem like that will be a bad thing at all. As shown here, players will still need to control recoil in order to have accurate shots, but the team have linked up with people like Controlled Pairs, an awesome tactical shooter creator and guntuber, to make sure weapons feel both realistic and fun to play. Now, for actually hitting your targets, it does seem like it'll be a bit more like Arma or Escape from Tarkov, with armor providing proper protection to the player. This means that a headshot might not actually be a one-shot kill if you have a weird angle, or maybe that hit in the chest is actually going to get soaked up by the armor plate, so understanding the ballistics of your weapons will be very important. They did also showcase an overview of the Russian character models, specifying quote-unquote distinctive flair to each role, but they also stated that there will be an element of player customization here. Now, it's still unknown as to whether or not players will be able to customize things like armor, rigs, plates, or helmets, but this really does remind me of the freedom players have when it comes to building your own personal kit in Arma. If I had to guess, I think we'll get some type of combination of both Arma and Squad systems, where you might be limited to a certain set of customizables depending on what weapon or role you select, especially since we get a sneak peek of the deployment screen here. Now, although this does look a bit like Squad, it is far more rigid. Each faction in Bellum has a predetermined squad and fireteam layout, replicating real-world unit composition, meaning that you can't just create a squad and have players randomly select roles. Instead, you can volunteer to be a squad leader, and then players will have to select roles like fireteam lead, grenadier, automatic rifleman, and so on, with heavy weapons units attached to the platoon in their own gun and heavy anti-tank teams. This means that when you are going to go up against the enemy, not only will you generally know what type of support and firepower you have by looking at your nearby friendly squads, but you'll also know what type of firepower the enemy should have as well. This really should remove the frustration squad leaders have in games like Squad, where players pick less optimal loadouts or kits like Marksman when a Grenadier or Rifleman would be much more useful. Now, one thing that Bellum really does seem to be diving into is immersion. You have the realistic weapons, the realistic unit loadouts, and now we also have a realistic and immersive user interface. If you noticed, in all these clips, we can actually see a GPS watch, which shows essentially a mini map to quickly orient yourself, but you can also bring it up and look at it directly. However, if you want to see a much larger map, you can bring up the Android Team Awareness Kit, or ATAK, which is similar to Arma's and Squad's tactical maps. This ATAK allows you to not only click around and check out the map, but also see friendly players and place markers to let your team know what you've seen. Now, I'm a map enjoyer when it comes to Squad and constantly find myself pulling it up, which is great for awareness and unit cohesion, but it's horrible for immersion. It looks really out of place and really does take you out of the game, so having this watch and ATAK system is really a great way to give players the map knowledge they need. There is also a really cool VoIP feature we can hear in these clips, with both local, squad, and unit level comms coming over the radio, as well as a change in volume and clarity depending on if you're out in the open or inside buildings.
Hey, Alpha, go ahead and suppress targets so we can move.
Gun down! The fire team moving left to right.
So far, all this stuff looks really, really cool, but the only big hesitation I'm still having about Bellum is the medical system. It does really seem like there is a pretty in-depth health, healing, unconscious, downed, dead state type of system going on, with your regular player being able to use tourniquets and bandage players to get them up and stabilized, but you need specialized medics being able to perform more advanced emergency care like using blood bags. I'm really in two minds on this. On one side, I really like this type of gameplay for players who do like to be medics. I think it's incredibly engaging and immersive. You can fight up, try to get your buddies back. You don't have to worry about spawns and waves and things like that. But if this is done poorly, it can be really too cumbersome and complicated. It can get frustrating. It can drag down the overall experience. It can just get super slow paced. And if you've ever played Ace Medical and Arma, at times it is really cool, but sometimes you just get super frustrated dealing with all the hassle. On the other hand, I also agree that sticking a player with morphine and slapping a cloth bandage on them after they get hit with a 50 cal round is not always the best method either. I just really think I need to see more on this medical system, healing, unconscious, downed, all that type of stuff to see how it really plays out in game. Overall, I generally think I'm on board with the design that Bellum is going for. It looks good, it seems fun, this is all pre-alpha, and it seems like a very fun PvP game. And although we don't know the actual gameplay loop we'll have in terms of objectives, is it going to be like Squad's Advanced and Secure? Is it going to be like Conflict and Arma? Well, knowing Karma Cut and his past experiences in Squad, I think we actually have a pretty good hint as what to expect.
I am confident, however, that all of you will be satisfied with the dynamic direction we plan to take.
Now, this could all be a coincidence, but I don't think he just accidentally used the words dynamic direction. Now, if you never played dynamic direction, the idea was that each map would have a random area which had to be secured and protected. And the more players that you had on point, the better your team did. They later on introduced occupation game mode, which was also like King of the Hill, but then players were able to create their own weapon caches, radio towers, or whatever to make it more like a player-created sandbox objective game. Not only could you choose where these radio towers or caches were, but then the attackers had to go find them and destroy them in order to win. I strongly recommend watching Karma's old dynamic direction videos on his channel to get an idea on how this game mode would play. And although there's nothing on the blog or anywhere on the website or Discord that suggests that this is the type of gameplay we will be getting with Bellum, I just can't imagine it not being somewhat similar to dynamic direction. The mod was extremely refreshing to play in Squad, and games could last upwards of an hour or two. I would really bet money we'll see something like this announced in the future, but only time will tell. Still, I think Bellum is shaping up to be a great game, and it seems like a refreshing take on the tactical and platoon shooter. All the attention to detail the devs are having when it comes to weapon animations and player models has really convinced me that this should be the one to watch for the next year or two. Everything that I'm seeing in Bellum is both familiar yet refreshing, and I think that is a huge win. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just pumped, and despite not having a timeline for when we will get an alpha release, I think I'm more than happy just letting the devs cook on this one. But what do you guys think? Do you like what you're seeing so far? Are you liking the combat? Are you a fan of this medical system? Or are you just waiting for more info before you let yourself get excited? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you like the video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.